welcome to the Victorian Toffee Show. We've got all the lads back, and also we've got another guest, Ronan. How are you, mate?
Great, thanks, Andy. Great to join you, boys, to talk about the season that has been.
Yeah, that's right.
Good and bad, limited good, but yeah, it's great to thanks.
No worries. It's good to have you. So yeah, we're doing our season review, and yeah, what a season it's been. But before we get there, let's get Ronan's story of how'd you get around to support Everton?
It's actually a bit of a juxtaposition. In my view, it's a bit sad as to how I did. I came in to the days of Baines being youngster, Leon Osman, Tony Hibbert, Phil Neville, Tim Howard, these stalwarts of the game of Everton who'd been there for years and years and years and had given their all. We all know the rumours previously about Jags, that he had the opportunity to go to Arsenal, that Baines had the opportunity to go to Man U, and these players could have gone on to, but they stayed with the club. The one person that didn't, and we still praise him with loyalty during that period, was Pienaar, who went to Spurs and came back. So I really grew up with that area where it was, Yakubu, Straka, or Saha.
Good.
Very early days. And obviously Tim Cahill polished it off being an Evertonian. But look at Pienaar on the left, Osman on the right, even though he wasn't a winger. But that loyalty, that camaraderie where you saw those players that you can really see they play for the badge, whether it's Jagielka, whether it's Dis down the rock down back, whether it's Phil Neville playing it right back, putting a challenge to Cristiano Ronaldo, Tim Howard in goals. They all seem to be, I'm for Everton, and this is rocking the badge right here, which is a real strange juxtaposition to where we are right now, where we've lost one of those key people from that generation, and there's only really one left for me from that era, being Seamus Coleman. So family being up from North and my dad initially supporting Everton, there was no reason that I could be a Red at all.
Good to hear.
The strange thing for me is I think assessing really the players there and the loyalty on the field and off the field. And we've seen and heard Richarlison this season, who's been fantastic for us and been one of the bright lights. But then in recent days, which we might come to later in the discussion, the off-field comments regarding if something does happen, if a club does come in from, well, he'll see and wait up what happens. So the loyalty there, it really doesn't feel, apart from Coleman, but the old band effectively seems to be gone, and we all know we need a huge overhaul of the squad. But it's just strange, I guess, coming through and initially being inspired by these players that adored the club and looked like they'd wear the badge and for anything and do anything for the club. Hibbo, for the amount of times that he sat on the bench, that he loved the club, and all these players. And now to look around and look at our squad and really think, wow, there's really, you're clutching at straws to find plurals in players, to find multiples there.
Do you not think that's indicative of the modern footballer? I think even in your area of supporting Everton from when you started and now, do you not think that's a general shift in football in general, not just Everton, but across all clubs?
Definitely, I guess, but at the same time, there's that Tom Davis argument of why is he getting played games so many times, and why does he get the minutes that he does, and is there someone of his caliber that we could have got or could be playing through another team? And I think one of the big factors is, yes, you're a local boy, similar to the way that maybe DCL was treated before he did, to his credit, turn it around this season and turn every single supporter's view around, including my own. I thought he'll probably be a solid championship player. And this season came, and wow, to everyone's surprise, he turned out to be a different player. But I'm hoping that there's some sort of loyalty still in there. When you sign a 5-year contract, I know these day and ages contracts mean nothing, people say. But at the same time, the romance is still there. The romance between signing a player for 5 years. When we signed Jordan Pickford, if we put down Mason Holgate for 5 years, if we put down Dom, if we put down these players for 5 years, the romance is there in my mind that I see them as potentially maybe they could be all right. DCL up forward, kind of acknowledging Dunk in that way and moving forward, or Pickford down back. And we've seen a fantastic, ugly, best of all time goalkeeper that's been through Everton's ranks. So that's the romantic kind of idealist approach. And you're right, in today's day and age, contracts mean really not too much, and players' right to, as we'll probably talk about, Richarlison, they don't mean too much. Having said that, you look at Liverpool players there across the park, and Jordan Henderson, the amount of the years that he's put in there, and it's still 2020. You look at a lot of players from a lot of clubs as well, from Man United, who have stuck around there. Maybe a lot of fans would have wanted them off their books, but they're still there.
And because no one else wanted them.
I think even with I'm on board with what you're saying, but even Liverpool, I mean, they're only just recently Premier League and Champions League champions, but they've still been finishing in the top 4 or thereabouts for year on year on year on year. So they can provide Champions League football. And of course, you throw in the odd FA Cup or even League Cup every now and then, you are getting that success. Whereas Everton and clubs of our size or similar, like us, who are not getting the same success, we can't offer that year in, year out. Or we can, and you're quite right in what you're saying. It's how do we find those players, like you mentioned, that could actually stick with us over the next 2-3 years with, say, a Carlo Ancelotti to help make that transition and get that same sort of level of success. But I'm not sure if we can find that modern player, or those players that will do that nowadays. But yeah,
less and less players like that now. It's all about the money in the bank rather than the badge on the shirt. It's me rather than team. So players will sign 1-year contracts or 5-year contracts and be there for 1 year and move on. It's loyalty, I think, slowly pretty much dead in the modern game. There's still some journeymen. Seamus Coleman's obviously our one that have hung around for a long time, but there's not a lot anymore that will do it. Messi's probably another one for Barcelona that's been around for a while, but there's even rumours that he's on the table for to be shopped around. So players aren't like they used to be.
Those rumours started as soon as Barcelona didn't actually win anything. Do you know what I mean? So I think this loyalty is a bit of a two-sided coin because, like Ronan and I started following Everton around that same time you did, by the sounds of it, and I get it. I love the passion of the players that we could afford. Really, were like Cahill coming up from Millwall, and Hibbert, who was the most unfashionable right back you've ever seen, and then we got Phil Neville, who was sort of in the same mould. But yeah, they had commitment to the badge, and I get that. But loyalty is a two-way street. We've got a bunch of underperforming, overpaid players at our club right now, and we all want them gone. None of us want them to be loyal. You know what I mean? And our better players, in reality, are going to look to greener pastures because we don't win anything. Everton's not a big club. Just because we splash money doesn't mean that we can attract the best players in the world.
Are you calling out our fickleness?
Sorry?
Are you calling out our fickleness?
Yeah, a little bit. But I think I did say, a couple of shows ago, we are a club, and as a result, a fan base in transition. We're still sort of transitioning from the workmanlike performances and the workmanlike players with heart and soul that we had under Moyes. And now we're transitioning out of that, and we've got money. And to this point, we haven't spent it wisely. But as much as we want guys like Richarlison to stay, as fans, and this is for every club, not just Everton, as fans, we also want guys like Sigurdsson and Walcott and Tucson and Sandro and all these guys on big wages to go. So that loyalty is sort of a two-way street. And yeah, if we don't start winning things, we're not going to keep our best players because players want to win trophies. That's why they play football. Unless you're Gareth Bale and you just want to play golf.
True. So what's been your all-time favorite game or just experience watching Everton, Ronan?
Probably when I was at Goodison. We played West Brom, Big Vic, and Leon Osman scored the 2 goals. I think it was a 2-0 win against West Brom. Sitting on the wing, so right where Pina was just picking up the ball. Couldn't beat it. And to go into there and to get a cab on the way there, and the cab driver asks, like, before you get in, are you red or are you blue?
Oh, nice.
Blue. And just that hesitation, that half a second afterwards, where you're going to say red, you're going to say blue. Thankfully said blue. Just an amazing experience, an amazing day. So I couldn't beat that. Not that it was the most attractive match, probably from TV or from being live in the Gladys. But just the first moment, I guess, that I've experienced Goodison Park. But a name there, I'll put back right at you, Nick, maybe. Victor Anichebe didn't have an incredibly long career at Everton. Yes, has been treated in the same way that DCL has been treated, being given the amount of time off the bench, given a lot of investment put into him. But he, since he left Everton, has still been loyal to the club and still seems never Evertonian. And you see that online through his Instagram posts, his social media. He's very, very, very much of a blue. So I think, and obviously there is those contractual points of view, but Vic went on to play for West Brom. He went on to play for other clubs. He was still getting played. So I think that romance is still there to a point. It's just, but you raise a perfect point. But having said that, where have we gone since that period? There's an argument that we've actually declined. Well, for me, this season has actually been the biggest blessing in disguise because of the injuries, because of what did it allow us to do? Allow us to get Carlo Ancelotti. Because none of the managers, we wouldn't have got through these amount of managers that would have been fired throughout. If Gbamin wasn't injured, if Fabian Delph wasn't injured, that Fabian Delph personal issues aside, or whatever you think about him, if Gbamin wasn't injured, if Delph wasn't injured, if we didn't have the injuries that we have, we wouldn't have finished 12th. I'll tell you that for a fact. Walcott injured here, good display there. Injured here, good display there. So we've had to play Iwobi in not his natural position when he can be played more through the centre. So it's been a strange one this season altogether, with pretty much no central mids for the last part of the season, where you have to play Tom Davis, and even Gomez coming back with a couple of matches back. So I strongly believe if we hadn't had the injuries, then we wouldn't have Carlo as our manager.
Yeah, fair enough.
I've not thought of it like that before. That's
a good point.
I do. I don't know. I do think when you mention those players, like Gbamin, I don't think anyone knows what Gbamin's like. I don't think anyone watched. Was he at Mainz or someone before Everton?
Didn't he play in he was in the Switzerland preseason game. He came on for I'm sure 15 minutes.
And I think he played against Crystal Palace away, and then that's or the game before or after. I'm not sure, but I don't think anyone knows what Gbamin's like. But when we talk about players like Delph, Iwobi, in my opinion, and a bunch of others, are they really going to make that much of a difference in getting us up from mid-table up to challenging for the top 6? I personally, I don't think so. I mean, these are average players, average to poor players, personally, and I don't know. I mean, you could be right. Maybe if we had that stability there, even with average players, we could maybe build something and do a bit better in the table. But I'm not sure that they would have made much of a difference.
We wouldn't have finished top 4 or probably top 6, even if we had everyone for the full year. We probably would have won the odd game here and there. So let's say we got 9 points more. It only puts us to 10th. So. Yeah, I can agree with what you're saying. Injuries weren't the best, and blessing in disguise because we did get Carlo from it. But there was a lot of issues before that we weren't winning games. No one wanted to play for Silva towards the end. So blessing in disguise, and thank God we've got Don Carlo now to lead us into hopefully a good season coming up.
Definitely. Well, thanks for that, Ronan. That was a really good conversation, and good to hear your journey and stuff. So yes, let's get on to the last game of the season, the horrible Bournemouth result. Who wants to kick it off?
I'll start us off.
All right, Chris.
So obviously it was horrible. Pretty much what I said at the end of last week come true. You know, Bournemouth tried really hard for the first 10 minutes to get a handle on the game. You know, they knew they were fighting for their survival. They sort of bossed it a bit, and then the game became really open. It was sort of end to end, and I'm thinking, we're going to score, they're going to score, we're going to score, and then, you know, they nabbed one first, and that was pretty much it. You know, we got ourselves back into it. I thought Moise Keane was pretty good for most part. You know, obviously limited service a lot of the game, but when he did got the ball, he was forward thinking. He did a few good things. You know, he hit a really good pass from the left wing into the middle, and then we had a terrible shot or unlucky shot from Richarlison. I thought Branthwaite was really good. Again, you know, I think he's going to be a star. You know, a couple of times, the kid's only 18, and we've got to remember we only signed him from a League Two side. I think he only had about 6 starts there from
Carlisle. Yeah,
very, very, very raw. But you know, he took on a couple of those bigger boys and bodied them and won the ball. You know, he didn't just knock the ball away or anything. He actually won the ball. So I'm interested to see how he goes next season, especially if he can play him with someone like Holgate or we end up getting someone like Gabriel at the back. Gomez was okay.
Just to interrupt there, on Branthwaite, I think what's really impressive about him is he had an absolute baptism of fire against Wolves, didn't he? He came on and he got done for the goal straight after half time. He's carried on and kept on putting decent, assured performances. As an 18-year-old, I think the Wolves game could have really knocked the stuffing out of him. And, you know, all credit to him, and that's a really good sign in a central defender, especially.
Yeah, he's all credit to him. It shows he's got a really good mentality, to be honest. You know, to get knocked about the way he did, and you know, the manager said the goal was his fault, but he since then he's been really good. You know, he's still. There was a few times where he made some average passes that nearly got us in trouble, which as an 18-year-old, that's going to happen. You know, you watch Harry Maguire and even Van Dijk from Liverpool, they still make some average passes here and there. So other than that, I think the kids are really, really good. I think other than that, there was not a lot of highlights in the game. Realistically, we just wanted the season to end. A few players, you know, Sidibe wanted it to be over. I think the worst part about the whole thing was the fact that Baines didn't really get to play a lot, and it wasn't a fitting farewell for him. I know he went out probably the way he wanted to go out, and that was understated and like he's never the center of attention, and that's typical Baines. But you know, as fans, that I don't think there's any fan that's going to ever say that he didn't give his all for the club. He probably one of the best left backs in the Premier League era. You know, Ashley Cole's probably up there as well, and you know, maybe a few others. But his free kicks for us, you know, free kicks at crucial times. I don't think he ever missed a penalty in the Prem. I think it was 100% record, or maybe he missed one. Captained us, played for England, so a bit disappointing that he finished like that. Hopefully he gets a testimonial. I think they'll give him and Jags a testimonial together, which would be fantastic. Maybe that'll be something that they can do at Goodison to welcome the fans back when they can finally go back. But other than that, the game was horrible. Then he announced his retirement. It was not a good night all round. But you know, a few good things to come out of it, and hopefully moving forward into next season, because it's a quick turnaround now. You know, there's only sort of 6 or so weeks before we go again. So fingers crossed we can make a few signings and see what players are going to go out. I don't know how much time Carlo's going to have to work with. I don't know how much time the players are going to get off to rest, or if they even need to rest. So I
think it's 2 weeks.
It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And, because they can't, and there's not going to be a proper preseason. They can't travel anywhere. So who are we going to play in our preseason game? So there's still a lot up in the air, but overall disappointing end to the season. And to be honest, good riddance that the season's over.
Who do you want to pass it to, Chris?
Oh, over to you, Tim.
Cool. Yeah, look, I stayed up and watched the game, unfortunately. I originally wanted to stay up to watch any other game because, there were relegation and Europa League spots on the line. But once I saw that my boy Moise Keane was starting, I had no choice but to watch Everton. So really, that was my positive for the game. My one positive was his performance. Not only did he score, which, fair enough, it was just a tap in, but I think he worked hard. He held the ball up well. In the space of 40 seconds after their penalty, he actually created a scoring opportunity for Richarlison, and 40 seconds later, one for Walcott, which he hit straight at the keeper because he's Walcott. But that's two times he started for us, 2 times that he scored. And I mean, if you saw the pass that he played to Walcott after taking on 3 defenders, likewise Richarlison, I feel like personally, there's no question that he has a quality. And he's one who's been saying
the finished product now and his mentality, I think, as well.
Well, he's certainly come out and said all the right things post game. I've seen a few quotes from him saying, he's ready to work hard and impress the boss so that he can get more games next season. So he's not sort of saying, I want to go somewhere else. So I honestly hope he does get some more game time. But I think for me, this game really summed up our season in a lot of ways. We saw the best and worst of Pickford. That great save from Callum Wilson before the penalty. And then for their third goal, just letting it dribble under his arms, didn't even get a glove on it, barely. We saw the best and worst of Gomez. He sprayed a few of those passes that he was spraying last week. And also just the contrast between last week's performance and this week. We saw the worst of Sigurdsson and the worst of Walcott. There's no best of them. And I think, Baines coming on would have been nice if we could have won a free kick up our end for him to have one more shot on goal. But I'd just like to highlight, with 10 minutes to go at the end of a game that didn't matter, that Bournemouth were clearly going to win, his last-ditch tackle running back on Callum Wilson to save them from getting into a certain goal-scoring opportunity. Basically sums up Leighton Baines' Everton career for mine. And the other thing I think that was kind of indicative of this season as well was VAR. Now, obviously, Richarlison's handball, okay, can't question that. No matter where I look, and I've searched this since our game, there was a point in that game where a ball got played into Moise Keane, the Bournemouth defender was behind him, and he's as good as slapped the ball down out of the air. Literally. The commentators replayed it a couple of times. I don't know if VAR checked it or not. When they checked Dinya's one that came after Richarlison's one, the commentators said they're stopping play to check. If VAR did check that, they've certainly not publicised it. If you go to Google and type in Everton Bournemouth handball, no news about it whatsoever. It was one of the most blatant handballs you've ever seen in your life. He legitimately, as close as you can come, to legitimately slapping the ball down out of the air as it was up around shoulder height, and it doesn't even get reviewed. And that sort of sums things up similar for our season, similar to how our winning goal against United was disallowed because Sigurdsson was in the way. But then the exact same thing happened to Tottenham a couple of weeks ago, and it was all good. Sorry, to Man United. Well, either way,
it was Man United, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think, as I said, I think this game really summed up our season, particularly if you consider the week before where we finally got back on track, and then the same players that played quite well the week before played not so well this week. Sometimes within 5-minute periods within just this game. So ultimately, a disappointing end to a disappointing season. And as we've all said, let's just move on and hope that Don Carlo and Marcel Brands can work some magic. What do you reckon, Nick?
I've got a confession here. I think I downed tools like the players did. I didn't watch this game. I've seen the highlights and I've seen the goals. And yeah, they're poor. There's no two ways about it. Jordan Pickford, what can we say? It's Jekyll and Hyde. It's everything about his mentality. It's and for me, I don't mind a goalie that makes mistakes. So I know I'm focusing on the goalie rather than the actual game, but it's not about a goalie that makes mistakes. It's he doesn't seem willing to, or he doesn't even seems like he cares when he does, and it's those mannerisms when he's made a mistake and things like that. And I thought it was such a poor error for their third goal. I mean, it's a tame shot, and it's something that you should be making a save. Not even just parrying it out; he should be gathering it in. He's a top-class goalkeeper, or supposed to be, and he's England's number one, or up until this moment, he's England's number one. So yeah, I don't know if the goalkeeper situation needs to change. We at least need to get a decent number 2 in that's going to challenge him next season, because it's not good enough as far as I'm concerned. I do think, I think I predicted that we'd win or there'll be a draw last week into the game. I'm not surprised that we lost. I think Bournemouth had everything to play for, and we had nothing to play for in that game. Having said that, it's still not good enough. We should not be losing to Bournemouth at home in any circumstances, whether there's fans or not. And it was really poor. I haven't analysed the game in total, but from what I've seen, from what I've read, there was not really much to shout about. And like Chris and Tim have already said, it was just that typical Everton. We show signs of progression and signs of, yes, this is going to happen against Sheffield United last week, and then the next week we play an even poorer side in Bournemouth, or on paper a poorer side in Bournemouth, and it all goes to absolute nonsense again. And I think that's just Everton through and through right now. We can't string a couple of performances together. Even onto an individual pass level, we can't string a couple of passes together. I think the only shining light seems to be Branthwaite, and the fact that he's come out of his baptism of fire in a good way, and is doing well in a defence when we're getting battered by hard battling sides like Bournemouth and Sheffield United. So I can't really provide any more insight than that, other than it was pretty indicative of our season to finish on such a bad note like that. And on that note, I'd like to find out what Ronan thinks about the Bournemouth match.
The less the words, the better. I've been watching The Last Dance. I think for a lot of players in the Bournemouth match, this was the last chance. To be honest, I like the way that we set up. We've been 4-4-2 up until now, and we've recognised, with Tom Davis not providing really the support from coming back, still Andre Gomez that isn't fit as a fiddle 100%. At sometimes a couple of weeks ago had played an incredible game out of the blue, but he isn't where he should be. Probably he hasn't got that game time under his belt. So pairing Davis with purely Andre Gomez at this point in time wasn't the right thing to do. We put Sigurdsson in his so-called natural position, and it just shows that he isn't a Premier League footballer anymore. A lot of the players in there, I think, are done and dusted. It was, I did like the setup, the thinking behind it. Give Moise Keane a crack and see what he can produce. Walcott on the wing. Whatever you say about Walcott, put Iwobi on the wing and put Walcott on the wing and see what you're going to get. And I think you're going to get a lot more than with Walcott. At least he's going to get past.
Doesn't say much for Walcott, though. That's just the lesser of two evils.
Exactly. But at the same time, it just shows also the kind of the mismanagement when you've signed Iwobi for big money as a young player that really doesn't have that much stock market. And the players that we have signed for big money that did play in that game, Gylfi Sigurdsson, huge money signing. Nope. Walcott was a decent money signing. Nope. Moise Keane did turn it on. The thing for me was the surprise afterwards. 2 minutes after the game, LB3, Leighton Baines. And whilst I was watching it, the talks during the week 2 beforehand being offered a contract. Thought, okay, well, he's going to be, he's going to sign a contract. We can't hold on to just Lucas Digne and throughout the next season, and hopefully he doesn't get injured. And Baines is a perfect replacement to sit on the bench, so why not? And it was the perfect way to go out for Baines. Might get on to Baines later. I don't want to highlight that during the match, but the match itself was atrocious because it highlighted our season pretty much the centre mids and the lack of attacking mids that we have. When we have that much possession, I don't know the possession stats off the top of my head. I'm going to say 66 or 2/3 or 70% in the second half at least. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know the amount of chances created with that. So when you do have that amount of possession, and you do have a so-called star, thanks Jamie Carragher for commentating, about Gylfi Sigurdsson, and you're not producing anything through the middle and being able to get it out wide, getting decent crosses in the box to Moise Keane, who got the goal early, was looking on fire. It just highlighted these players just need a whole revamp. But how many years have we been saying this now? I guess
that's right.
What about you, Andy? What was your take on it?
So yeah, I didn't watch it live. I slept through the kickoff and stuff because I had to
Better things to do in your life.
Get up for work and stuff. But I as soon as the mini match came out, I watched it in my car in the work car park, and even though it's just that 20-minute or 23-minute highlight package, I just felt like I went through all the emotions, all the normal Everton emotions. Like we start off the first 5 minutes like, oh wow, this could be building to something, and then we concede, really sloppy, and then we equalize, and then second half we just concede straight away, and you're just like, oh my god, like this is just the typical Everton that like, and then like the passing, Gomez, Davies, like just 1-2 touch and then we lose the ball. 1-2 touch, we lose the ball. Like it's just so predictable. And then like changing it with all the subs. He makes the same subs, and I'm just like, these players aren't changing. You've just put on players that are just doing the same thing. Okay, yeah, we might have had a few more chances with Moise Keane and stuff. But then you take him off. Like, no, keep him on and put him up with DCL. Like, it's all we can do, And then we concede again. Sloppy again. Pickford. Like, what are you doing? It was just so deflating. But that was our season, and that's it's always been like that, which is really, really disappointing to say as well, because like it's like what you brought up, Nick, last week, that little triangle thing. We get our high hopes up, oh no, and then miserable again. We get our highs, it's just I don't know, it speechless really, because it's just, I feel like we're all saying the same things we say every season. That's why I'm really hopeful Carlo really changes things and just gets rid of these players that just clearly don't want to be here anymore. Like, it's obvious they don't want to be here. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
On that point though, sorry Andy.
No, go ahead.
If you're Carlo Ancelotti, and with the CV that he's had, how many years do you think that you're going to put into the Everton project?
Well, he's got a 4-year contract, does he, or 3?
He's got a 4-year contract.
4-year contract. I think the first 2 years. Yeah, I think the first 2 years, he's gonna really have to show, all right, I've built for 2 years, or like he's starting to shape what the squad needs to be, because you can't do it all at once. So I think in the upcoming market, I think maybe 3 or 4 players will come in, and we get rid of maybe 2 or 3. Like it has to be small, and then when the next transfer, maybe 1 or 2, and maybe 1 leaves. Like you have to really balance it out, and also depends on how the market is. But yeah, I think that the next 2 seasons are really going to show what Carlo's image is going to be.
I do worry. I'm not doubting Ancelotti's expertise, or I'm not indignant as an Evertonian under Carlo Ancelotti. I think he's absolutely amazing. I still can't believe he's our manager, and I'm very thankful he's here. The one thing I do worry about him is that I think that he may have bitten more off than he can chew. I think he's probably underestimated the size of the task that he's got, and I think he might be fearful that players like Sigurdsson and the rest of them, and Davis and all those players, he might think these players are going to tarnish my legacy as a manager. I think they're that bad that he might think, yeah, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? I need to get out, sooner rather than later. I don't know. That could be an overreaction, but that's just my take on it.
I honestly don't see him. I don't see him going anywhere, mate. I think it would tarnish his reputation more if he ran away from a 4-year contract because he's fearful that he doesn't know how to build a squad.
Yeah.
It was the one question mark that was over his head as an Everton manager is that, and not for me personally, I'm just like you, Rap, that we got him, and I always look forward to next weekly. I still can't believe Carlo Ancelotti is our manager comments. Still pinching yourself. But I think running away or getting out of his contract before his time is up will be more of a thing on his legacy. And I think given some pundits did come out and say, okay, so you can manage a ready-made squad and give them that extra 5-10% to get them to win things, but you've never built a squad before. I think he's got a little bit of a point to prove as well. Whether or not we have the cattle for him to be able to do that is another question. But I don't think the fears of him sort of leaving after 1 or 2 years are very founded.
Okay.
I think he knew what he was taking on board. He would have seen us play. He would have done his homework.
Yeah.
He's probably on $8,000 million a year as well. Because how else were we going to convince him to come once he did see us play? So I think he'll be there to see out the project for as long as he can be.
I think a manager
definitely.
like Carlo Ancelotti doesn't just sign up to be a manager anywhere. He does his homework, and I reckon because it's sort of a week for us to sign him. I reckon he would have been making sure that he's going to get the checkbook to be able to sign the players that he can. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different now because of COVID, but I think he's exactly what you said there, Tim. There's been that one knock on him is that he's never built his own squad, and I think that to take a club with the history that Everton has and turn us around and turn us into a team that can challenge for European football and an FA Cup or whatnot. I think the type of guy that he seems to be, even as a player, he was that sort of dogged player. I think he wants to add that to his record, and we could be it for him. He could go out with us winning a trophy, winning an FA Cup or something in his 4th year, and then that could be it for Carlo Ancelotti. He could
get that trophy,
and that'd be it. So
Carabao Cup. If he wins the Carabao Cup, I'll get his face tattooed on my arse.
Love it.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Will it be him doing the chef's kiss?
With a big plate of spaghetti. He's like,
yeah.
Oh dear.
But Andy, if you're looking at the size of the project upcoming from Carlo, and as you guys have pointed out, he would have known, he would have seen us playing, he would have seen who you've got on your list. I think one of the biggest things that isn't talked about is the Liverpool factor in getting the job. Similar to why Sheikh went to Man City. Why? Because Man United are the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
You need an arch rivalry. So it promotes that. At the same time, there's so much deadwood to get rid of this squad that you can't do this within a year or even 2 years. I'm just looking through, we've been playing a certain brand, which is through Jordan Pickford, get the ball, don't pump it long, play it out from the back. Yerry Mina, is he that kind of player? No. He's signed on until 2024, whether you like Yerry, whether you don't. We're not sure what we're going to get. We know Sidibe, he's gone back to Monaco. Jean-Philippe Gbamin signed on until 2024. For all we know, he could be a broken player. He could be a bench player. He could be a bang average player. We just haven't seen him at all. But still, that's 4 years worth of contract still. So what are you going to do with that? Mo Besic signed until 2021. Tom Davis.
Hey, don't knock Mo. He's all right. The kid's all right. Anyone who comes on in a derby and his first trick is to do a blind turn, lose the ball, and give away a goal. What a legend! Just the sheer size of the kahunas on him to be able to do that.
Oh, that Chelsea game. Anyway, go on, Ron.
Yeah. Tom Davis, end of contract 2023. Fabian the Snake, Delph, contract 2022. Benny Benigamy, hashtag where's Benny, end of contract 2022. Gylfi Sigurdsson, end of 2022. Alex Iwobi, 2024. Bernard has not been playing. That means there's some serious things on board there between Carlo or the staff and Bernard. 2022. But last is the list just goes on and on and on and on, right down to the players that we've loaned out. So if you have, I can't even put those amount of players I've just listed on my fingers there.
So do you think 3 years then? It'll take 3 years then?
Yeah, I don't think you can get rid of those players within a year and a half. Honestly, I don't think you can loan them.
Salaries they're on as well.
Yeah, true.
That's the big thing. That's the big thing for us. I think when we first got that cash injection from Mashiri, we were kind of like a kid in the candy store, weren't we? For all
we bought all the same position players.
All those those number 10s.
Yeah,
but it was like that, wasn't it? It was like we for the years previously. Whatever you want to say about David Moyes, is he built something from a relegation and battled side to a proper team that probably should have won trophies on an absolute shoestring. I think this whole thing, it's the whole be careful what you wish for thing, isn't it, with David Moyes? It's like what he did, I think, it won't be recognised because he hasn't actually got any silverware to show for it. But what he did was pretty much an absolute revolution in the game.
Who did recognise it? Sir Alex Ferguson, which is why he anointed him as his own successor.
Which is why he was the apprentice to the master, so to speak. I can't remember the point I was going to make, but it was along the lines of, the hardest thing. So when we had the money, we just went and just splashed it on anything, and we were used to just picking up decent players like Tim Cahill, like Mikel Arteta for buttons basically, and we just went and splashed 30 million on Class, and another X number of pounds on Sandro, and there wasn't really any sort of structural plan into what we wanted to do. We put massive contracts and massive money for these players that just average. And the thing for us is for the last, since 2017 when that happened, or 2018, is the knock-on effect from that. And these average to poor players are on massive contracts, on massive money that no other club will pay. And it's getting rid of them. I mean, no one's going to pay Gylfi Sigurdsson 120 grand a week or whatever he's on with us. No one is. No one's going to pay for it. We are stuck with Gylfi Sigurdsson for the next 2 years, in my opinion. It's the same.
That's horrible to think.
It's the same with Sandro as well. I mean, look, I was very excited. We got him for 5 million, and I thought he was the next, whatever player, the next Lukaku for us or whatever it might be. And he's on a massive. I bet he can't believe his luck. He's on loan, knocking in 2 goals in 25 games from Valladolid, and he's getting paid 80 grand a year. I don't know the exact money, but 90,000 pounds a week for us. He must be absolutely laughing. And no one's going to pay him the money. And the thing is, modern day players, going back to the original point we spoke at right at the beginning of this show, is that players are quite happy to sit on their backsides and collect the money. They don't really care about who they play for or how successful they are. All they care about is the money and their Instagram following. So
that point you just said right there, Nick, about happy to keep a wage and not even play. People got a bit of time in isolation, watch the Sunderland Till I Die documentary and see that exact point over Jack Rodwell and the way he acts at Sunderland. They offer him a way out of the club and a chance to go and play. And he turns it down to be on high wages to save the club, sits on doesn't make an appearance for them, and they get relegated. So that point there is 100% put in lights by Rodwell in that.
Yeah.
Just a quick one. We've started getting rid of some dead wood. We just got rid of Kieran Dowell. He signed for Norwich.
There we go. Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Yeah, exclusive. We need the better.
He signed for Norwich in the Championship, of course.
Championship.
Yeah, look, obviously, we've got a segment to discuss transfers, and that seems like a good segue into it.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that. Yeah, we'll get into the transfers then.
I think, you guys are all absolutely right in everything you've just said. And, we were like a bogan getting JobKeeper for the first time. Instead of making it last, we went and bought a flat screen TV that we didn't need. and and that, Gylfi Sigurdsson is an example of that. And then we kind of threw bad money after bad money when we brought in Sam Allardyce, who apparently needed Walcott and Toussaint for a casual 50 million odd combined in the January window to save us from relegation. And don't think their wages are cheap either. This dates back to Koeman and Walsh, when we signed 3 or 4 number 10s, Clarkson, Sigurdsson. I mean, look, Sandro, I think we're a bit unlucky. A lot of big clubs were after him. I don't think anyone could predict that he would turn out like a spud. And the reason we paid him such big wages was to deter the other clubs. I think even the last couple of seasons of transfers have seemed a bit short-sighted in that, how do we still not have an actual right winger other than Walcott? All our other wide players, Richarlison, Bernard and Iwobi, are all more comfortable playing on the left, cutting inside on their right. None of them are natural right-sided wingers. So how does that happen? I think, brands, this transfer window is massive. And I don't mean so much in terms of how many we can bring in and out, because we're all aware of the job that needs to be done there. And as we've all said, we know it's not going to happen overnight. But more so, I think the types of players that we bring in. So just as an example, the 4 transfers that we've been linked to in the last couple of days that I've sort of noted down. Branislav Ivanovic, 36 years old.
Nope.
No.
Yeah, that's got to be just paper talk.
The only thing I can think of for that, you'd think it's paper talk. The only thing I can think of that might give it some truth to it is that obviously Ancelotti's worked with him before. He'd be available on a free, and maybe he's got something special to offer the dressing room that we don't know about. Because let's face it, there's a lot missing in that dressing room.
Yeah.
In terms of guts and heart and soul. Ciro Immobile, yeah, okay, he scored 34 goals in the Serie A. He's also 30 years old, and we have 3 strikers who are all good, in my opinion. Yeah,
he's £50 million. It's
right.
a lot of money for a 30-year-old. I think that goes against our policy, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, so far, all of these transfers that I'm about to say all go against our policy. So this is why I'm saying it'll be telling. Zaha, Chris, I know you mentioned, be prepared for us to be linked to him. Look, he's had a bang average season. His value might have dropped, but it's probably dropped because he's had a bang average season. He's also 28 and he's not left-footed, so I don't see that one happening. And then the last one is Allen, the midfielder who Ancelotti worked with at Napoli, who has really good defensive stats, but again, no real creativity when I look at his stats. 1 assist all season, half a key pass per game. None of those guys fit what Brands has constantly said is our transfer model. Allen's 29, by the way. So none of those guys fit the age bracket that we're looking for. None of them have any resale value. So for me, I have to look at those and go, if I'm taking Brands true to his word, then none of those transfers are going to happen and they're all paper talk, which in a way I'm relieved about, because I believe that's a good thing. On the flip side of that, why I'm not relieved is because who are we looking at then? Where are those rumours of the players we're actually looking at? We've known this squad has to be turned over for quite some time. Why is business not happening quickly? Are we going to end up with another sort of a Wobie on deadline day scenario? Are we going to end up with Lingard, heaven forbid, walking through the door at 10 to 12 on October 4th because we haven't got anyone else? You know what I mean? I mean, we're looking for wide players. I mean, have a look at some of these guys who just got relegated, like Brooks from Bournemouth, who can also hit a set piece. Buendia, the guy that I bang on about. There's plenty of players out there who are in that age bracket who are probably affordable, just those 2 as an example. So, as I said, I don't expect the whole squad to be turned over. I expect we will be stuck with a lot of that dead wood simply because no one else wants them. But what I would like to see is the additions that we make. I would really like them to be I'd like the club to be true to its word and learn from past mistakes. And the additions that we make, I truly believe all have to be in that age bracket of sort of, 25, 26 under, with potential resale value if they perform well, and not coming in on outrageous wages. Like Højbjerg, for example, if he goes to Tottenham, good, we've dodged a bullet. Yes, the age bracket is right, but he doesn't really want to be here. And if we have to pay him overs to convince him to join us over Tottenham, well, look how that's worked out for us in the past.
Just a quick one, Tim. I'll be interested. Sorry, just on that touch on the
No,
age.
you're right. I'm pretty much done anyway, mate. So shoot.
No. I want to ask your opinion on it because obviously we know the Everton model, the Brands model was supposed to be buy young with resale value, all that sort of stuff. Do you not think with the shorter turnaround because of coronavirus and that sort of thing, we need to get players in who are going to basically hit the ground running from day one? So, for example, like an Alan from Napoli, who's 29, it doesn't fit in that particular model, but we could stick him in there with relative confidence that he's going to do an all right job. Do you not think that things have changed slightly?
Yeah, fair point. And I know that, as much as they've said that is the transfer model, there would be exceptions to that rule. I guess a prime example of that was Delph last season. He was the exception to that transfer policy. If you look at who we signed last season, it was Iwobi, who's only just now 23, and, jury's out. I think he's harshly judged because he hasn't been played in his natural position, but I still think he can offer us something. Moise Keane, who was 19, Gomez, who was 25 at the time, signed, and we were all happy with that signing because he performed.
And a very
well
handsome man. A very, very handsome man.
Very handsome.
Happy birthday, Gomez.
John Paul Gowan, JPG, who's only 23, and we've yet to see what he can actually do. And then lastly, the last addition was Delph. The last full-time permanent addition was Delph, who was 29, but the fee was $9 million. The wages, I suspect, were probably on the high side considering his output. But that was probably one that they looked at where, and as we all said in a previous show, we all thought it was a great idea as well. Winning mentality, bit of a utility player. So yeah, Nick, I guess to your point, maybe we do need to change that strategy a little bit, but I don't know if the right option is paying $50 million for a 29-year-old Brazilian player who's had an okay season in the Serie A defensively. I think we can all agree we're lacking a bit of creativity and attacking quality in midfield. And none of these guys that we're being linked to offer any of that, I don't think, including Alan. Having said that, out of the four I mentioned, if I had to choose one to sign, it would be Alan. So yeah. But yeah, that's my take on it, on where we're at the moment. What about you, Chris?
I think two that I've read today that we've been linked with, three actually. So two from Watford. Both of them I don't mind. Decore, 27. I think defensive minded, but can also go forward and score goals. He scored a couple of brilliant goals early in the year for Watford, where he drifted around a few players and scored. He's 27. I don't think he's going to be that expensive, and Watford are probably going to want to be offloading some players to bring money in to help them for next year. And the other one from Watford is Ismail Sarr.
I've heard that name. Yeah.
He's 22. He's a forward. I think he probably fits the mold. Him, Keane, DCL all together gives Carlo a bit of an option, but to go through him. It also is. They're very similar ages, all three, so they're going to push each other. They're going to be wanting to play, so that competition could be really good. And the last one is one from Watford, and we've just from Norwich, and we've just given them Kieran Dow. So Max Aarons is one that very, very young, very good England international at under level. So
he's a right back, yeah.
Right back. So, we've just got rid of Sidibe. I know Kenny's coming back in, but there's interest from West Ham, from David Moyes for Kenny. So I don't think that would be a bad one. I think he's only 20, or 21 even.
With Max Aarons, the rumour is that Bayern Munich are also in for him. So
yeah, there's some bigger clubs in for him.
There seems to be a bit of a trend of, young English players going out to Germany and obviously,
and then coming back for big money.
We've seen it with Sancho, going to Dortmund. We've seen it with Kenny getting developed at Schalke, and a few other players. I think there's a couple of players, Mönchengladbach as well. I can't remember who. So it seems to be a trend. So I don't know whether Aarons would see, well, apart from the fact that they're buying Munich and we're Everton, whether he might see his development elsewhere. I don't know.
Well, hot tip on my latest Football Manager career, Max Aarons turns into a beast.
He's a great young player, and I think if we're going to stick to that strategy, then here's one for us. My jury's out on whether we're keeping Kenny. I think if the right offer comes from West Ham, I don't know, 5 mil, we probably sell. Personally, I don't think he's a Premier League quality. I know he's gone out to Schalke, but he was only sort of a 7 out of 10 there. So Coleman is back up to Aaron's would be ideal. But, I think you said we want to make changes and want to make signings fast before the end of the transfer window. I don't think we can. I think that it's still a lot of wait and see who goes first as to how much people are willing to pay, what we're going to do in pre-season, everything like that. There's a lot of unknowns. I think the first transfer to fall for the whole thing is going to be Jadon Sancho to a Manchester team. And once that happens, then the dominoes could fall. But I think we're probably going to be into the season, a couple of games in before we get everybody that we want. And hopefully we get a good draw early on. Hopefully we play some of the middle of the range teams that we could potentially beat early on with the rubbish that we've currently got.
You just know we're going to get Man City away first game, don't you?
yeah. Or Tottenham away, or something like. We always seem to get it. Or we'll get Leeds United in the first game at Leeds, and
to be fair, we're going to draw a team, and we could potentially lose. So.
Yeah.
Look, I'll be devil's advocate here, but I actually disagree in regards to the type of players that you've raised there for us to look at, along with the right back and the youth and the young players that we need to bring in. Look at the young players that we brought out and departed this year. We'll talk about Visa or whatever. Henry Okakuru went for 13 million. Nikola Vlasic. If you're an Everton supporter looking at Nikola Vlasic's last season, you'd be thinking, oh my gosh, what have we just done? 15 million. And that's nothing. Because with Mauricio at the helms, 15 million is really nothing. Ademola Lookman had talent, potentially a bit of an attitude. We don't know really the ins and outs of what was said behind doors. But they're 3 young players right there who are playing on the wing. On those sides, instead of Walcott, instead of Yannick Bolassis, instead of these types of players to be really role players and fill them there. So if you're thinking the rebuild model, for me, it's a ticking time bomb for Carlo. All right, COVID hasn't helped this out at all. If he's 2024, that's his end date. Aside from whatever you think about Bramley Moore and the PR to bring players in, etc., Carlo is the one that's really going to do it for us. And if he's certain on a certain style of play to be implemented, such as playing out from the back, for me, that excludes Yerry Mina. For me, that means Holgate and Keane, or Holgate and someone else, assuming they're both fit. Now, if he's got only a few windows to actually get somewhere, meaning top 6, and top 6 isn't even a huge achievement, because we've already seen that under Moyes. We've already seen that under Roberto Martinez. So for Carlo Ancelotti to do that wouldn't be a huge achievement for Everton. So we're going for really greater than that. And it's 2024. How many transfer windows have we got to get rid of the dead weight? And what can he do within that? For me, if I'm Carlo Ancelotti, I'm banking on getting Allen. I'm banking on getting some established players who can come in and switch around to the system I already know, I already want to play, and hit the ball running. It's not about development me. For Marcel Brands, might be a different story. There might be conversations behind the field there, but no, it's about hitting the ball running. And that was...
But mate, that's the whole reason they brought Brands in, because they didn't want a manager bringing in players that didn't fit our long-term vision and crippling the club financially, similar to what Walsh and Koeman did. They brought Brands in so that essentially the manager is interchangeable, the players and the system remain the same.
Also,
so that's Brands' job.
You've got financial fair play, or FIFA financial fair play in as well. So
that's
you can't
right,
just spend your 50 mil on, or 40 mil or whatever someone like Allen is going to be. And then we come to the end of the year and we know Everton are the ones that are going to get docked the points or get knocked down to the champion. We're going to be the ones that cop the fine. We've already copped the fine for a few things. So
is that the price they're asking for him, around the 30 to 40?
I think he's rated between 30 and 35. So
okay.
The sale value will be about 45, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, to give you an example of a recent club that's gone down this road, and in my opinion, as much as it pains me to admit it, it's kind of worked out for them. When Tottenham got their Gareth Bale money, they spent a lot of that money on young guys who
they bought Sigurdsson.
Seasons. It took, I know, but it took seasons for some of those guys to flourish.
Yeah.
And then once they did flourish and they gelled together, suddenly they were back in the top 6 regularly. They didn't lash out on established stars, and it took a bit longer, but it worked better in the long term and put them in a position to be in the top 6 regularly. So I think that model is proven and works. Having said that, Ancelotti's actually worked with a director of football at every club he's ever been at. So I'm sure between the two of them, they'll work it out.
They'll work it out, yeah.
Yeah, Alan may be an exception to the rule of needing to rebuild because you're right, Ronan, sorry, we do definitely need someone in that central midfield area who can hit the ground running, because what we have there now is absolutely not good enough.
Yeah, the pleasing thing is that Carlos come out and said that him and Brands are talking every single day.
Well, they've got a meeting this week, I think, don't they?
You know, they're having regular meetings on the type of player and players that they want. So I think it's not going to be Carlos saying, this player I want, go get me this player. I think Brands is going to go, you want a left winger? Here's 5. Let's go and talk to them all and go from there. So it's not going to be that last day on the transfer of the transfer window where, oh no, we haven't signed anyone. Let's get Iwobi. You know, we're linked with
Zaha.
we
don't want that.
I don't think it's going to be like that. I think that it's going to be a bit more thought behind it, and that's why I don't think the transfers will happen fast. I think that they'll take a bit of time. And like we all know, we're a team like everyone pretty much now. We've got a bit of money and had a bit of money for a while, and we've spent it. We're going to be linked with every man and his dog like we have for the last 3 seasons. So I think we're just going to have to. I know patience isn't our strong suit as fans. We want to win the trophy. We want it all now.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to need a little bit of patience towards the start of the next season and probably for the next few weeks until something happens. And I know our fans, and I know online, if we don't sign someone quickly, everyone's going to be going nuts. But I think we just have to wait and hold it in, and eventually I think it'll come to us eventually. I think we'll get the players that Carlo wants to be able to play the brand of football that he wants and progress us up the table, even if it's going to be slowly. You know, we can't expect the Man City where we go from nowhere to the top like that. It's just not going to happen. So it's definitely going to be interesting no matter what. Having
said that though, Andy, a flip side argument to people that you'd look at coming in, whether you're Brands and whether you're Ancelotti, and also the high profile players that have played well this year for Everton, and Richarlison, where, this week he's come out and said, if good proposal arrives, we'll sit down and talk. So, and all before that, you loved Richarlison because he was kissing the badge and before, but really now, how do you view that, Andy? Are you really concerned about that, or you're not?
No, I find that's just, we've had history of players like Lukaku did that. Like every time he went on national duty, he was talking to the press going, oh yeah, wanting to move and stuff. Yeah.
Or his dad.
His dad. Yeah. So I'm not that worried with Richarlison. He's still young and he's not Lukaku, and he's just putting his point of view out there. He likes to be honest, and I he's just saying I've got a lot to learn under Carlo, and we'll see what happens next season. But that's because he's clearly very good for this club, so I wouldn't be surprised that he wouldn't be picking up interest from other clubs. So I don't mind his comments, but if he
Chelsea or
sorry,
I don't think he'll go anywhere else in the Prem. I don't think
Barcelona.
I think Barcelona or PSG, and I think it'll be for 70 or 80 million. And if he does go,
you do wonder if the Messi discontent is there. Is Richarlison? Obviously, Richarlison's not a Messi, but could that?
He's the type of player Barcelona look at. There's been a few things I've seen that PSG have got money to burn. He's really good friends with Neymar. They've obviously got Mbappe. They want quick players up top. I think that may work, and they're another one. I think for Richarlison to leave, it's going to have to be a big money offer, and I think we're going to have something going on behind the scenes, someone else to come in and play somewhat of his role. Because if we sell him for 70 and we don't replace him well, then game over next year. We're going down.
I don't think he's unhappy at Everton. He only signed a new contract 7 months ago.
It's not about being unhappy.
I'm not too concerned. He got asked a question and he answered it. But I think, again, I keep harping back to this. I think gone are the days where when we want to sign someone or whatever, we send David Moyes over with a can of Spam and a set of bagpipes to bloody serenade them into the Goodison dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Money talks now. I don't see anything wrong with Richarlison being ambitious. I'm basically saying if this club doesn't match my ambitions, I will move on.
Yeah, he's challenging the club, which needs to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I just hope to God that he gives us one season. And I think that he will. I haven't been so confident with other players, other young, talented players. Like for Lukaku, I thought Lukaku would have left every season. Because, and to be fair, I wouldn't have blamed him. I do think Richarlison kind of gets what Everton is and seems to be very involved for such a young player, and seems to have his head screwed on. And I do believe he'll give us another season at best. If he was to leave this summer, I think it would be very, very disappointing. I think it would go against everything that he said to the press. But give us one more year and see what happens. But to be fair, if we do get to next summer and we haven't made any progress, then could you blame the kid for leaving? I couldn't. So.
No. He's certainly one that can say he's given his all.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Even if he left this summer, as much as I'd be very disappointed, I couldn't blame him. The kid can go and play for anyone, as far as I'm concerned. He'll be amazing.
Yeah, agreed.
What are your thoughts on it, Ronan?
There's that one too, but then you look at the ins versus the outs, and Lucas Dean's been linked with Chelsea. Beforehand, the most similar player that could play that role of play at centre back to Mason Holgate that we've had for me was John Stones, and look what the fee that we got and the rumours and how long that saga went for. I don't know that Holgate's contracted, but we've talked about contracts before earlier at the start. So, and that, for me, they'd probably be the three contenders for best player this season, along with maybe if someone wants to float DCL in there. But for me, it'd probably be, Mason Holgate and Lucas Dean, a toss-up between those two.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear your views as well. But, I don't see many people leaving this season other than those that were happy to see the exit door for. At the same time, for me, I just see it as we've got this chance now. We've got Carlo Ancelotti. And when I started supporting Everton, it was, David Moyes with 0 pennies and in debt. Where's the Arteta money? Where's that?
That's right.
That joke's been going for a decade now. So we've got Carlo Ancelotti, but it's almost a ticking time bomb with Carlo, because how long is he actually going to be at Everton for? So you have to capitalise on that. And I get the idea with Browns and Carlo, they're sitting down there and they may be looking towards young players, towards investing in the future. Every club has to do that. Whether they're playing, whether they're not, you have to sign those players. But at the same time, you need to lean quickly towards a real linear progression. And I don't see that within the next 2 years with the amount of transfers we've got after the COVID period that has suspended things that have happened. I'm a bit worried, to be honest. Yeah.
No, I also have some concerns, but for me, I'm just like, okay, let's see what the next 6 months bring out. Like what's, what we do early, and, if we do pick up like 2 decent signings and, preseason goes well, whatever they choose to do, if the fixture's nice to us, what teams we, have ahead of us. I just see it as that, like, Though I do worry, like, you know, if for some strange reason the team we have now is the team we have next season, then yeah, I'll be like, oh man, we're gonna really struggle. But yeah, it's just a lot of unknowns. Because we don't know what business will be done really. So with that, I think we should move on to the season review.
No, we're going to have to.
I thought we should move on to. I was going to toast Leighton Baines.
Yeah, we need.
Well, I guess. So we kind of have sort of spoken about the season.
I tell you what. Shall we do one good thing? One thing that we're thankful for this season. Go around the ground.
Let's do that. What about one positive and one negative? What about that? One positive, one negative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Start us off, Nick.
I'm going to take everyone. So the one positive is Carlo Ancelotti. The one negative. The one. There's a few more positives. But the one negative is probably Jordan Pickford. I think has been abysmal this season.
Yeah.
And I think it's highlighted a problem that we've got so many problems in the squad, and I thought the goalkeeper wasn't going to be one of them. And I think it's just an added problem. He's probably even elevated himself as to probably behind the central midfield as the second biggest problem in the squad. And I think that's a really big negative. But focusing on the positive, Carlo Ancelotti, the fact that he's our manager is insane. And I'm very thankful. So cheers, Carlo.
That's good. I'll go. For me, I'll go negative first. My most negative was just the inconsistency with the game plan and just style of play. From the amazing Chelsea game, and then, you know, going to United, getting a point, fantastic, good performance, and then just these really poor performances, and with some draws and then some losses, and then, you know, the Chelsea away result. Like, what team was that? Like, my God. And then just from the restart from the COVID period, it's just the same. And I'm just like, what? How can we play so well at Sheffield United and then just go terrible again? Like, especially with some individual players like Gomez and stuff. Great one game, then terrible the next. I know it could be just like the whole mindset of everything, but that was my big thing out of the whole season, was just the inconsistency of the whole squad. Positive, I would say, would be the Chelsea home game. I know I've mentioned that a few times because we all watched it together at the our local. But just what a performance! The atmosphere, Dunk running around, grabbing ball boys and giving them a hug, and I'm just and just like every tackle was just cheered for, and players just ran for anything. There you go. Yeah, Nick Scotty's Ferguson. Like I brought it up last week. I think the ball was gonna go out probably for, I think, Chelsea's throw. DCL ran for it, tackled, it bounced off a Chelsea player, and we got a throw. Like things like that. And then, yeah, that's been my big positive. Just like that game, that performance. Chris.
So my negative is a stat here that I've kept.
You've been preparing for the last hour to get this
out. This sums up Everton. So just put this into perspective.
Yep.
For what it could have done for our season. So we lost to Bournemouth twice. They got relegated. We lost to Norwich at home. They got relegated. We drew with West Ham. We drew and lost to Brighton. We got beat and a draw at Villa. We dropped 19 points against bottom 5 sides. 19 points. If we got half, if we got 8 out of them or even 9 points out of them, we're 8th or 9th. It's more, but we lost to the bottom 5 sides. That's the big negative for me. I think mentality is probably another negative, I guess, losing to them.
Mm.
The other side of the coin on that is that I think we got 6 points out of the top 6 for the whole season. So again, we're not good against the top. We're not good against the bottom. We're only okay against the teams around us. So that's my negative. The positive, it's hard to go past getting Carlo Ancelotti. You know, we all were together when Marco Silva got sacked. We all thought, to be honest, it was going to be David Moyes. And we went from being David Moyes and, you know, somewhat accepting that was going to happen to Carlo Ancelotti. You know, it was us and West Ham. West Ham were linked with Carlo, got David Moyes. We were linked with Moyes and got Carlo. So it was brilliant. I just now hope that we can build on Carlo and see what he can do for us. And hopefully his name can attract some players to help improve the Everton Football Club and get us back to being somewhat of a powerhouse, especially in England, and then in years to come, Europe as well. Like, you know, we were back in the day, you know, the 80s and the 70s, where we were that team. So that's my positive. Over to you, Tim.
I think positive. I'll start with the positive. Is obviously Carlo, and I'll add in a second one just quickly. The improvement of DCL this season. I think that's been a real positive.
Yeah.
My negative for a minute there, Chris. I packed myself. I thought you'd stolen what I was going to say, but it's basically a very similar thing. But I know we were talking before about fixtures and how we hope for an easy start to the season, and this was the most disappointing thing for me this year. And I remember mentioning it sort of 2 or 3 games in the WhatsApp group. So our first 7 or 8 fixtures, you couldn't have asked for anything easier. We had the toughest game we had was Man City, followed closely. A close second was Wolves. Of our first 8 games of the season, we drew 1, we won 2, we lost 1 to a promoted team, lost 1 to a promoted team, lost 1 to a team that's now been relegated, lost 1 to a team that's promoted and now been relegated. You know, and we had the cushy start where we didn't play anyone from last season's basically top 8 in the first 8 weeks other than Man City. And we lost to guys like, as Chris was saying. Even Bournemouth, it was actually the exact same result at the start of the season, 3-1 to Bournemouth. And you can't say the excuse that we didn't have anything to play for at the start of the season. You know, so that was the most disappointing thing for me, was this season so full of promise. And it was pretty much over after those first 8 games and the Jungle Drums started beating. But yeah, the positive out of it is the Jungle Drums beat so hard that Carlo Ancelotti heard them. So...
Well said.
Oh, God. That is cliche, isn't it? Nice one. Ronan, what are your thoughts on the season, positive, negative wise?
Positives to come out of it. Look, we saw a little bit of Leighton Baines last match. Anthony Gordon last couple of games.
Mentioned,
Massive positive and little teaser for the fans, because he's someone that we can, local boy that idolised Baines, that we can kind of reach onto and say like, this is what we thought. Kind of like Tom Davis early days when we saw him doing like little back heel and then scoring against Man City. What we love as Everton fans to see those. So Anthony Gordon, Holgate season for me, DCL coming out and producing the goods. One that probably hasn't been talked about, maybe Bernard is, aside from the central mids, which is an obvious already, Bernard is my one that I'm really disappointed with this season. The amount of money that he's been bringing forward and what he has produced, no.
Yeah.
If I had to nitpick one, then and we've already talked about the Gilfie. We've already talked about the centre mids. So,
the usual
I'm
suspects.
Really in Bernard.
Yeah. No, I am too a little bit. I know this season he came out talking about his mental health issues and stuff, but also, like, you know, you've got to, I don't know if that was affecting his gameplay. But if that was the case, you know, maybe don't play him. But he just didn't perform, and Yeah,
I think it's
but
Bernard's such a good little footballer.
yeah,
He's a fantastic little footballer. I always look at him and I just think he'd be so good in the Spanish league. I think he'd be a really good player for for an upper level Spanish league, maybe like a Sevilla or someone like that. I think in the Premier League he gets pushed off the ball too easily, and for a club like Everton, with the amount of or the lack of movement we have up front, and just in general in our play, the static nature in the way that we play football. I think Bernard's talents are lost. I think he's got amazing close control. He's a nippy little player and he's very creative and he can get in the box every now and then. I think he's a good player. I just don't think he's right for us in this period. And I think he'd be better playing in a Spanish or an Italian league where things are a bit more tactical and a bit slower pace.
No, that's fair.
Downside for me, but big negative I'll point out is I'll go a strange one. The webcams outside the goals, opposite them, with fans just sitting there on the COVID webcams.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Get rid of it. It's ridiculous. That is worth then finishing 12th. That is worse than having an awful centre defensive mid partnership or whatever. It's just it's blinding to my eyes. So get rid of that ASAP.
Oh, fair enough.
We should finish this bumper Victorian coffee show with Leighton Baines, the one and only.
Yeah.
There he is.
Yeah, there he is
behind you, Andy.
So yeah, let's go around and say a few words for the great Leighton Baines. Who wants to kick it off?
I'll start us off.
All right, Chris.
Yeah, go, Chris.
So
I'll move out the
Leighton
way.
Baines is pretty much everything as an Everton fan that you want in a player. He's hard as nails, works hard, tracks back, goes forward. He scored some absolutely amazing goals for us. My favourite was the 119th minute free kick against Chelsea in the fourth round replay. I think it was 2011. We actually won that game on pens as well. But that free kick was just insane. His 2 goals against West Ham in the same game. He's one against Newcastle from about 40 yards where the
rocket. Yeah.
Insane. But the other things, he played for England and did really well there too. And, especially in the Ashley Cole era. So he sort of took over from him. I heard that he signed for the Arctic Monkeys. That's his next hit. So I think that'll suit him. That'll suit him quite well. But he was a local lad, and he got to live out the dream of playing for a local club. And he gave us everything. He could have left many times. Every year he was linked with United, Chelsea, Arsenal at one stage, City. He never left. He stayed, and I think the one disservice is he didn't get a trophy because so many players get trophies that don't deserve them. But he was one that I loved watching, and he deserved a trophy. I know Carlo said that they've offered him a position in the staff, so hopefully he stays around. Being a local lad, I think there's a chance of that because I think he's got a lot of expertise that he could pass on to, especially our younger players. He seems like he's that type of bloke who can nurture a player and, put an arm around him and have a chat and get the best out of him. So loved him. Absolutely one of my favourite players of all time, and sad that he's gone and sad that he won't get to pull on the shirt. And I wonder if Lucas Dean gets the number 3 next year. Over to you, Nick.
Yeah, I haven't got much more to add on that. I think he embodies the Everton spirit, doesn't he? Everything that we want in a player, a hard worker who really cares about the club. I think as a human being, he's obviously, I don't know the guy, but he seems very humble. I love the fact that he's into his music and other things, and he's not just into, not necessarily just into his football. He's into various other things. He seems like a very low-key character who I think we can all resonate with. I think sometimes players and our idols out there, as you get a bit older, you stop resonating with the players who are the big stars and the Ronaldos and the Messis and all these players who you could never ever get on a level with. Do you know what I mean? But I think with Leighton Baines, you could easily go down. He'd give you the time of day.
Yeah.
I think he was a normal person living out his dream, who just gave it his all. And as Chris said, he could have gone to any club in the world. At one point, he was an equal to Ashley Cole.
Yes.
And once Ashley Cole had gone to Italy / semi-retired, he was probably England's best left back. I don't think that ever went to his head. I don't think that I don't know, but I think that maybe he's the kind of guy that will probably want to go and spend some time away with his family and his kids. Whether or not he'll jump straight into coaching, I don't know if his heart's in that. But look, as a player for us, he's hands down one of my favourite players. I think I speak for everybody in that. He's been absolutely amazing for us. It's a shame he hasn't won a trophy with us. I don't think that's through any fault of his own. I think it's that probably the players around him that has sort of let him down slightly. Goals wise, I think they've already been mentioned. I think what player has done free kicks like? Sorry, what player has taken 2 free kicks like that in the same game?
Yeah.
Against West Ham, I don't think that's happened very rarely. Yeah, the Newcastle game, amazing. I think the most recent one, Leicester in the
Leicester equaliser, yeah.
In the last minute, he just pops up in the last minute. And we were awful in that game, and he just comes up and gives fun the ball. And it's a typical Everton thing that we go out on penalties when really that should have been the goal that got us to go through. But yeah, if I look back on his time with us, very thankful to have witnessed. I grew up supporting Everton a little bit before you guys, and I watched players like Alessandro Pastoni, and those are the kind of guys that I grew up watching. And Leighton Baines came in, and it took him a season, I think, when he came from Wigan to bed his way in. I think, was it him and Gary Naismith were fighting for that place at left back?
Sounds familiar, yeah.
I'm not too sure in the 2006 season, but that period when he did break in the 2007 season, roughly, to about 2010, I think it was the Europa League season where we had where we went out to Fiorentina. That 2-year period was probably, that's probably the best Everton side I've seen growing up. With him and Pienaar down the left-hand side, and Arteta and Cahill and those kind of Yakubu up front, those kind of guys. So Leighton Baines, I know I've rambled on there, but just very, very, very thankful that I've got to see him play for such a long period of time.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll go next.
Striking word.
Just like this, were we having a minute's silence? I mean, he's not dead. He's retired. Look, Nicky, you covered off a lot there. Obviously the 2 West Ham goals, 1 left post, 1 right post, top corner, were brilliant. Great memories. I like how you touched on him as his ways as a person as well. If I recall correctly, I think I remember it was the Euros or something where he actually got called up for the England squad and he declined to go because he was going to be back up to Ashley Cole, and he said, I'd just rather spend time with my family.
Stephen Warnock, the Aston Villa left back who played about 2 games for England, got taken in his place.
That's right.
That's right.
So, he was never really a glory hog or anything like that. He was very understated. Seems like an all-round good bloke. I think he went out the way that he would have wanted to go out. I almost feel like the lack of fans at the game had 0 impact on him. I think it was almost a relief in some ways. Look, one thing obviously he's got the most assists ever for a Premier League defender, which is an amazing stat. And something that Pienaar said, I saw in a tweet or something earlier today, where he said, if Baines had played for one of the big 4, he would get mentioned a lot more when you're discussing, the quality left backs of the Premier League era. He turned down Man United to stay with us, or at least didn't kick up a fuss when he didn't get the transfer. Just an absolute stalwart of the club. And I mean, as I started following probably around the time he started playing, he was my second favourite behind Tim Cahill. You guys don't know this, but my illustrious junior soccer career was mostly played at left back, and I think the only reason why Leighton Baines got in the team ahead of me is because he was born on Merseyside. So good luck to him. I wish him no ill will.
Did you grow your hair? Did you grow your hair like that, like he did?
No, I didn't. I never looked like the 5th Beatle, but I've been bald since the 80s, mate. But look, he's obviously a quality player, quality bloke, and very, very, very sad to see him go. I still think he could have run around for another year, but appreciate the service he has given us. And as Bill Kenwright said, he's one of us. And I think that sums it up. So, yeah. What about yourself, Ronan?
I'm probably from the area of starting to support Everton from yourself, Tim, as well. So growing up with, Leighton Baines from his start of the career and Tim Cahill and those around him, just the most humble, understated player that we've ever seen wear the badge for me that I've ever seen. I don't know if you guys remember the video of him giving him Evertonian some boys a lift to the game.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Just summarizes the man right there. It wasn't his doing it. It wasn't his Instagram PR like, oh, I'm doing this for your benefit. It was just, I'll give you a lift to the game. Yeah, sure. How Leighton Baines is that?
Yeah.
How Leighton is that? We saw Anthony.
Just on that, sorry to interrupt you. I love on a similar vein, the fact have you seen the picture of him buying an ice cream?
Yeah.
After the game.
The thing is, these are things that normal lads and normal humans do, but we kind of, in football especially, we kind of grasp at that normality, and I think Leighton Baines represents the normality and sort of brings football at such a high level with high money and everything's unattainable, but Leighton Baines sort of brought it back home. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, exactly. You hit the nail on the head there. At how he carried himself on the field and off the field as well. But on the field, the Baines Pienaar combination, free kicks, how he played the game, it was absolute magic. And I've never seen a left-sided or a right-sided partnership, or a partnership in the Premier League, full stop, that has been like the Baines Pienaar, the Pienaar partnership that we saw during those years. For me, he's always been my favourite player. When I did start supporting Everton, I was a young teenager at the time. I was a little bit of a shy kid, really into, as we joked about before, Arctic Monkeys and listening to Arctic Monkeys, The Strokes, or Libertines, and that kind of British style there. But remember, there was one game that Everton played Melbourne Heart. This young kid hadn't played much for Everton. Seamus Coleman played down right wing. Gee, he looks all right. But after the game, the Everton players, the credit, Tim Cahill and the whole lot, do the rounds. And Leighton Baines was there. At this point in time, I hadn't really had too many interactions with girls, hadn't had a girlfriend at all, boyfriend, whatever. And as soon as I saw him, he was there, got his interview. I love you. It's all to come out of my mouth. I love you. So, Leighton Baines, yep.
Well, how did he react?
He reacted almost as if it was an interview. Like, thanks, mate.
Oh, nice.
He took on board, like, he wasn't weirded by it.
It wasn't anything fake, like, oh, I love you too. It was just like, yeah, thanks.
No, to him, it felt like almost like, yeah, here's your change back from your ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
And Ronan's been stalking him ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'll just say a few things and then we'll wrap up because we've gone pretty long, which is great.
The bumper episode. This end of season. We've got to give the fans what they want.
Exactly. I just, what everyone said, it's just what an incredible player and servant for the club, and just the dedication he put on every performance, win or loss or draw. He really showed what it meant to play for Everton, and just being so humble as well for like even just any interviews that he's done. He just always, down to earth, and I wish him all the best and thank him, and come on Everton. Thank you, Baines.
Here's the Bainesy.
The Baines, yeah.
Baines.
As you said, Andy, it's been a long show. Obviously our last one for the season. So I think we've discussed. We'll maybe have a couple of weeks off for a little bit. Obviously, we'll jump back on for a bit of an emergency hiatus if any transfers magically materialise in the first few weeks.
Definitely.
But obviously, thanks everyone who's been following us so far. As always, leave some comments down the bottom if there's anything you'd like us to discuss, which, it'll take us a couple of weeks to get around to it this time around. But yeah, it's been really good starting the show with all you blokes. So thanks to all of you as well.
Oh, no worries, Tim.
And hopefully it's a bit more positive in the next few weeks.
It's been really fun. I think, look, for anyone watching this that doesn't know, obviously Melbourne's back into a hard lockdown, and I think we've sort of used this show as to build our network in the Victorian community of Evertonians, but we've also used it as a bit of solace to keep ourselves sane during what is a pretty difficult time. And I know it's a difficult time for everybody in the world right now, but this has kind of been, for me personally, I can't speak for you guys, but it's been my it's been a bit of solace for me in just having that's something that we do on a weekly basis or on a few days basis and talk absolute rubbish about a team that we hate but love, and kept the spirits
up perfectly.
Just want to say that the Victorian Toffees community and the Evertonian community is going to see the other side of this. As soon as lockdown ends, we'll be talking about setting up meetings and how we can do it, whether that's remotely for people to make them more comfortable, or whether hopefully we can get into a pub and whatever it might be. So keep an eye out for our social media, which we'll go through at the end of this. Thanks guys, and thanks Ronan for coming on today as well.
Yeah, thanks Ronan. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Really good.
Just a quick bit of football news. The first transfer has fallen. Man City just paid 40 mil for Nathan Ake.
Wow.
And shattered. I don't know if you guys remember, I mentioned him in our preview, said let's relegate Bournemouth and then buy Aki at centre back. Obviously City beat us to it.
Yeah.
Does that mean John Stones is coming home?
Well, hopefully that opens the floodgates with a few other teams. So it's a start.
Interesting.
Again, hopefully one of them is not John Stones coming back to Everton.
Yeah.
Watch him be linked for the next month.
Yeah.
100% him and Zaha. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of our socials, you can find us on Twitter at Toffees Victoria. We have our Facebook at Everton Supporters Club of Victoria and Instagram at Toffees Victoria. That's a wrap, guys. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you again, Ronan.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, Ronan.
No worries. And we'll see you guys next time. And come on, you Blues.
Come on, you Blues. Cheers,
See you, lads.